Oh, yeah. Right. Then we should be fine. Hey, Ben, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Always marvel. My grandma played, my dad played. There's so many places to make mistakes. And people guitar lessons. Not as many.
I'm glad you feel that way.
I make plenty of mistakes.
Right.
So how are you, sir? Good. Nice to see you. If you think this room's too big, maybe I would fit everybody in your office tonight.
Yeah, it's true. The rabbi was saying if we have such a small group, sometimes we could be in the chapel.
You could.
And I said to him, I'm not going to pay for moving the piano, nor am I going to move the piano. Somebody else has to do it. But there is a keyboard in there. Hey, Roger, Shabbat Shalom. Are you our official usher tonight?
We're good.
We're lucky to have you, Roger.
Can't your faith well?
Yeah, she's good. What?
He just offered a degree.
Oh, nice.
And I know Felice isn't coming.
Who better than Roger Karp?
Yeah, he's the master usher.
Is she in town?
Yeah. Teaching and coaching and
You succeed.
yelling about her kids, listening to Sirius XM Metropolitan Opera Radio.
What?
My wife, she can listen to 3 or 4 operas a day. She just stays with it. She loves it so much. She knows all the plots. She knows all the lines. She knows the languages. She's been deep in it for a long, long time. And so now, the great thing about Sirius XM is the Metropolitan, you can hear their broadcasts from the 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s. All these great people.
Yeah.
It's
Good
still
jobs,
there.
Rabbi.
What time you got?
Shabbat Shalom. 5:54. Okay, let's get back to this stuff.
Appreciate it.
That's pretty amazing.
Oh, yeah. She hears some great historic stuff.
Yeah, I guess you go online, you can hear any classic opera from you.
She went to college to be an opera director. So she's listening to the people's voices and is that right for the character? Was that the right casting and all kinds? She's got it on every strata.
See, it makes sense now that you say it. She could go to school. I never dawned on me you'd go to school for that.
Yeah. She went to Indiana University, and it was not good. It was not a good experience. It was the kind of like, it was a kind of a music school where it's just like a meat grinder. They just chew you up. And it's
But in Indiana?
yeah.
Because I think the woman is lifeguard and she plays harp. Not many of them in the city. And she went to, I think she was in USC with some great renowned harpist, and they moved, I think, to Indiana since she finished her work.
Interesting.
But she said, talks about different.
We're gonna have a harp player here.
As opposed to the incorrect ones. Oh no. We would have figured it out. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good to be together on this snowy evening. And those of you who are at home, I hope you feel the warmth that is emanating from this sanctuary as well. There is a reading that comes from Gates of Prayer. That is the former prayer book that we used to use here at Congregation Shalom, which I find meaningful, particularly on this week in which we are reading from the Torah portion Truma, which talks about gifts. It says, normally, and it's written by Leslie Edgar, normally we're compelled to pass from one task to another in quick succession. One duty is completed only to be followed immediately by the next. A difficulty surmounted, a problem solved is replaced with such rapidity by further worries and by other cares that we have no choice in daily life but to live from 1 minute to another, to eliminate from our minds everything but that which is immediately ahead of us and which demands immediate attention. In worship, however, we are freed from the pressure of life. There are no immediate tasks to be performed, no insistent need clamoring for immediate satisfaction. For once, we are guaranteed time and quietude, the rarest possessions in life today. For once, we can escape from the tyranny of the next minute with its worries, tasks, and duties. And when, as now, we do have time to take a larger view of life, when in calm reflection we enlarge our vision until we see life in its entirety, considerations come before us which tend to be excluded in the rush of everyday experience. We can now allow our spiritual needs to take precedence over those material satisfactions to which usually we pay such high regard and to which normally we devote so large a measure of our effort. In worship, the foremost place in our consideration is given to that which develops character, all that which lends nobility and dignity to human life, all wherein we can express the greatness of the human spirit. We consider what it means to us and for our lives that we have been endowed by God with reason, with the power to love, with a sense of the beautiful, and with the knowledge of righteousness. And that is what the Shabbat can mean to us. It can be a palace amidst time for us to gather, a time for us to pray, a time for us to feel connected to each other and that which is above us. And so we begin our service by wishing each other Shabbat Shalom as well as singing Shabbat Shalom as we join together in singing Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom, 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 Shabbat 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 Shalom, 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 Shalom.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's now a joy to call upon Abby and David Nash to step forward as they have the honor of kindling our Shabbat candles, as they bring light into our community in so many ways. It's appropriate that they should be the ones to kindle these lights. And we see the light that is reflected in each and every person. May that light extend out into the world and cause our whole world to be illuminated, no matter how much darkness we might see in it. That'd be great. No, not really. You got it. Don't worry. All right.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all those who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us.
Page 2. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
We sing together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Let there be Shabbat peace, let there be Shabbat wholeness, let there be Shabbat light. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
We are going to turn now in our service to page 20 for Lechad Odi. Lechad Odi, this beautiful poem that was written by the mystics of Tzvat. When we come to the final verse, there's a tradition in synagogues around the world that we rise and we face the door through which we entered and that we bow on the final words of Boi Kala, which means welcome, O bride, welcome, O bride. We're imagining the Sabbath as a bride entering into our lives with all the beauty that she brings. So let us do that as we turn to the final verse. We'll rise together and we'll bow. But until then, let's sing together Lechad Odi.
Lechad Odi likerat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechad Odi likerat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamo v'zacho b'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el hameyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem ultiferet v'litehila. Lechad Odi likerat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechad Odi likerat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha. Sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila. Lechad Odi likerat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechad Odi likerat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, kiva ore kumi ori, uri, uri shir daberi. Kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Lechad Odi likerat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechad Odi likerat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Please rise.
Boi v'shalom ateret ba'ala, gam besimcha u'v'tzola, toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, boi בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה.
We continue now on page 27. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. We turn back to page 26 for the Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון ויומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם לעולמי עלמיה
יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לאלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ויאמרו Amen.
Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence. We rise now as we turn to the call to worship on page 28.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
We continue in the Hebrew on page, actually let's do the English, on page 30. Page 30. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. We continue now with Ahavat Olam on page 32.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu B'shochbeinu u'vekumeinu Nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratcha U'v'mitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
We continue now with the watchword of our faith, the Shema, on page 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed.
You may be seated. We continue now with Ve'ahavta on page 36. And let's read this in English. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. We read responsively now at the top of page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Page 40.
מי כמוך בעלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, מי כמוך בעלים אדוני. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם לעולם ואין. מי כמוך בעלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, מי כמוך בעלים אדוני. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
We turn now to page 42 for the Hashkivenu prayer. It's a prayer that was often recited by worshipers as they were leaving the synagogue, as they were entering into the darkness of the night to return home. It's a prayer that they were thinking of when they were asking for God's protection, to say, grant, O God, that we may lie down in peace and raise us up guardian to life renewed. And when we think about this weekend, when we've heard that this weekend or this tomorrow will be what's called a day of hate, a national day of hate that's being put forward by white supremacists, where this evil is being paraded out of the darkness and perhaps into the light. Perhaps we have reason to think of this Hashkivenu prayer, that we should always be thinking of God not only to protect us, but that some of that light that God casts into the world might enter into the hearts of even our brothers and sisters who are filled with the hatred in its place. So we think of these words as we read them together in English on page 42. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We continue now on page 44 with Vishamru.
Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam beini uvein bnei Yisrael oti le'olam beini uvein bnei Yisrael oti le'olam ki sheishet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz uvayom ha'shvi'i shavat vayinafash.
A thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat arrives in the world. Scattering a song in the silence of the night, eternity utters a day. We rise now as we turn to page 46 for the tefillah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi hagite hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei HaKol, ve'Zocher Chastei Avot ve'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah rav lehoshia. Mashiv haruach umorid hagashem. Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Micha molcha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, melech memit, umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol. Baruch ata Adonai, mechaye hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalalucha selah. Baruch ata Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated. We continue reading responsively at the top of page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Page 56.
Retzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael utefilatam be'ahava Tekabel Utehi leratzon Tamid avodat Yisrael Yisrael Amecha El Karov Lechol Korav Penei El Avadecha V'choneinu Shefoch Ruchacha V'techezena eineinu B'shuvecha leTzion Berachamim Baruch atah Adonai Hamachazir Shechinato LeTzion
turn now to page 59, where we find the Hoda'ah prayer, which is a prayer of thanksgiving. And on an evening such as this, we might feel grateful for the warmth that comes when we gather together as community, for the light that comes when we cast a sense of righteousness into the world, and the fire, the Eish HaTorah, a fire of Torah that burns within every heart and with every soul. If you have reason to feel grateful this evening, I invite you to read these words with me at the top of page 59. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha u'cha na'eh lehodot. We turn now to the prayer for peace on page 60.
Shalom, shalom, shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha ve'al kol ha'amim tasim le'olam tasim le'olam ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom shalom shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha ve'al kol ha'amim tasim le'olam tasim le'olam v'tov be'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol eit uv'chol sha'a b'chol eit uv'chol sha'a b'shlomecha shalom 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 Rav al Yisrael Amcha ve'al kol ha'amim tasim le'olam tasim le'olam Baruch atah Adonai hamevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom.
In the echo of these beautiful words of peace, we're cognizant of the fact that that word shalom also shares the same root as shalem. As we think of those who are in need of wholeness, those who are in need of refuat nefesh or refuat guf, a healing of spirit or a healing of body. Particularly in our hearts and minds, we are thinking of Shendel Bat Frida Malka, Julie Borokoff, Margot Roz, Carol Dubin, Sharon Rotman, Steve Toplinsky, Esther Cohen, Lisa Firstat, Chazan Sarah Rechelba, Yocheved Alexander, Wendy Salzberg, Steve Plotkin, Avram Ben Naftali, Emma and Max, Doug Cruz, Carol Rovner, David Goldstein, Marilyn Harmon, Barry Bursack, Raitza Tzvia Bachena Etta, Mary Frankowitz, Sophia Rubenstein, Alana Himmelfarb, Abraham Bat Frida, Marla Chikowski, Michael Sychek, David Rotter, Natalie Cohen, Teresa Drews, Yona Neri Ben Avraham Vasara, Keith Mandel, Jamie Kryman, Isla Batnatan Vishoshana, Mark Cook, Luke Roberts, Cooper Roberts, Jason Roberts, and Keely Roberts, Mark Berlin, Dr. Susie Mendelson, Audrey Rubin, Josh Bowley, Michaela Hellenberg, Julie Austin, Jay Stearns, Chris Gould, Howard Messerman, Michal Stroud, Lisa Fiel, Susan Garrison, Yehuda Ben Avraham Vasara, Shane Alea Bat Yehudit, Warren Beal, Ron Slavin, Peter Rotter, Stuart Peckerman, Wendy Cohen, Suzanne Swain, Fredlin Kruglak-Veal, Scott Keller, Judy Kaiser, Eileen Shippen, and Roger Cook. If there are names that should be added to this list or names that should be pronounced differently than I did, we invite you to hold those names in your heart as we turn to the words of tradition. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. Blessed are you, the source of healing.
Mi sheberach avoteinu mikor habracha leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imoteinu mikor habracha la'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We take this time now for Tefillat Halev, for the prayers of our hearts.
Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
So last night was a particularly cold and dark evening in which many members of our congregation and religious leaders from many different faith traditions and their congregants found warmth and light as we joined together to commemorate Black History Month with a dinner at Canaan Baptist Church. And it was meaningful to join together to talk about our shared values and visions and a world that could be made better by actively working towards what is called in the civil rights movement, the beloved community. Has anybody ever heard that expression before, the beloved community? Yeah, it wasn't so familiar to me. And for those of you who might be unfamiliar with this concept of the beloved community, it was a term that was coined by Dr. King in the 1950s and the 1960s. And in Dr. King's view, the beloved community was a society based on justice, equality, and love. It was a community in which all people were treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their race, religion, or socioeconomic status. The fact that there was wow, I'm missing a page in my sermon. How do you like that? But you know what? So it was appropriate that this should take place on this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion is Truma. Truma. Does anybody know what the word Truma means? Any of the Hebrew speakers? I'm not asking because I forgot the page. But Truma means gifts, right? Truma means gifts. And it seems that this, you're going to have to do this on the fly. Cantor, if you wouldn't mind going to my office and grabbing my sermon, because it looks like every other page printed. Oh, no, it didn't. It's on the back. So it's in the light of beloved community and the shadow cast by the realities of our world today that the Torah portion, Truma, which means gifts, is a meaningful text for us to examine this evening. It contains within it the command to build a Mishkan, a wandering dwelling place, almost like a wandering temple that would move with the Israelites through the wilderness. The construction of the Mishkan involved the Israelites bringing a wide variety of disparate items as donations. And the items included precious metals and fine fabrics and animal skins and other materials. And its construction leaned on the talents and abilities and possessions of each person in the community. There was no uniformity in which was brought to create the greater whole, and the donations were voluntary and were given by those who felt moved to contribute. And the fact that there was no uniformity to the gifts that were given highlights the importance of each individual's unique contribution. Each item that was donated had its own value and was essential in creating the final product. And there's a profound lesson in that. Every person has something valuable to offer, and every person's contribution is needed to create something greater than themselves. In this way, the construction of the Mishkan serves as a reminder of the importance of diversity and inclusivity in our society. And this also highlights that same importance when thinking about the tapestry of the Jewish world. And that can only happen when everyone is given the opportunity to contribute in their own way. But right now, we are confronted with a world that seems to devalue the uniqueness of diverse expressions of oneself, both here at home in the United States, and it appears that we are seeing a challenge to the diversity of religious expression in the state of Israel as well. Let's start with the United States. From what we understand, and as I mentioned earlier, neo-Nazi groups across the United States are planning something that they're describing as a national day of hate against Jewish communities tomorrow. The intelligence gleaned is that organizers are instructing like-minded individuals to drop banners, place stickers and flyers, or scrawl graffiti as a form of biased action. And the Fox Point Police Department are aware of these threats and are remaining vigilant, as are we. But it is emblematic of a troubling upward trend, not only of anti-Semitism, but of white Christian nationalism, which seems to show a tremendous lack of understanding of the foundations of this nation, the founding principle. A nation that was born of the principles of the Enlightenment and is therefore antithetical to America's founding principles of equality and freedom of religion, separation of church and state, inclusivity and democracy. And this nationalism promotes exclusion, division, and authoritarianism, which are fundamentally at odds with the American ideal of a free and democratic society. So we must stand vigilant against these threats, for America is in itself a mishkan, a dwelling place in the wilderness, united in common goal, a sacred space built by many disparate parts, made more beautiful when placed together. But the United States is not the only mishkan in the wilderness for the Jewish people. So too is the state of Israel, a melting pot of sorts that brings together Jews from all over the world, shaped by cultures and experiences. It's a nation that houses peoples beyond the Jewish community who live and work side by side. It's a nation that has been known as an island of tolerance, of difference amidst nations that rule from hegemonic positions and authoritarianism. In Israel, differences related to gender, sexual orientation, and even differences of religious identity within the Jewish world has been treated with some sense of liberalism, though they too have been achieved through hard-won battles. But there is a potential change. In a letter penned by the Union for Reform Judaism, they condemned the recent judicial reforms proposed by Justice Minister Levin. And I'd like to read you sections of the letter. It reads, "If implemented, these reforms will dramatically weaken Israel's democracy, eviscerating any meaningful checks and balances that provide a separation of powers, a backbone of secure democracies, allowing the Knesset to override Supreme Court justices' decisions with a 51% majority. And that would strip the Supreme Court of a crucial element of its power to protect fundamental rights, mitigate abuse of power by the government, and enable the Knesset to pass laws that violate Israel's basic laws. The Knesset must not become a vehicle for tyranny of the majority. And because Israel has no constitution, no Bill of Rights, and no second parliamentary chamber, the High Court is the only check and balance in existence. Once these reforms are instituted, the people in power need never relinquish it. There will be no other branch of government to rein them in. The courts serve the critical function of protecting minority rights, which is the backbone of any democracy. And these proposed changes are particularly egregious given that the current coalition is specifically attacking the rights of Reform Jews, members of the LGBTQ+ community, Arabs and Palestinian Israelis, and other minorities. Minority groups are best protected by the courts, and without the basic separation of powers, many millions of people will be vulnerable to the whims of a narrow majority bent on imposing their will on all of society." And that's the end of the letter. So I'm asking you to speak out when it comes to preserving America's democracy in the face of this wave of anti-Semitism and racism that is occurring in our society. Affirm your support for the Reform Jewish community in Israel through the Israel Movement for Progressive Judaism and the Israel Religious Action Center that fights for these ideals in their society. And I'd be happy to share with you how after the service, or if you'd like to email me or call me, I can give you the information to be able to support these important institutions. But I'm also asking you to be willing to talk among our community, to espouse our beliefs and our sincere connection to two great democracies with shared historic values and visions for the future. The result of an America under Christian nationalism and the result of an Israel without protections for minorities will be to destroy the Mishkan. They will be places that some abide comfortably, but where others will be refused. They will be places run by people that refuse the gifts that so many of us can bring to our nations and to our people. And this too will erode Judaism as we know it. For Judaism has always been a religion of tolerance. Our interpretive tradition The fact that we understand that when reading the Torah in Hebrew, we can render different thoughts and ideas has never allowed us to fall to the folly of fundamentalism. We've always recognized that there are multiple paths to spiritual growth and that each individual may have their unique way of connecting with the divine. We have a tradition of tolerance for dissent. So the Talmud preserved dissenting opinions and valued them, and people from different schools of thought never stopped breaking bread together, or for that matter, arguing with each other. And we've adapted in every generation to meet the needs of the current times. We have grown and evolved over time, and new practices have always emerged to meet the needs of our day. And without these strengths and an openness to the gifts of the people, Judaism itself will fail to evolve and will inevitably go the way of any idea or people who fail to accept the gifts that all might bring, and thereby forego the gifts of tomorrow. It will fail in the wilderness and never enter a promised land. Written on the wall of this sanctuary are the words from this week's Torah portion, V'asu li mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. Build for me a sanctuary, and I shall dwell within them. And the rabbis were sensitive readers of the text, and they realized that the word for sanctuary was singular, and yet it said that God would dwell within them. So to what or whom was God referring would house the divine? And the answer is within all those who build. We've not finished building the Mishkan, the holy places of shelter in a difficult world of wilderness. It's a holy place built of beloved community. We must continue to build America, encourage our brothers and sisters across the sea to build Medinat Yisrael, the state of Israel. And may the gifts we bring to both enterprises be accepted by all of us, each and every one of us. So let the golden light among the nations be that which is kindled in the hearts of all enlightened people. May it be held aloft by liberty's torch. May it emanate from Jerusalem's stones. And may we always stand firm in our desire to reflect their light today and every day. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May this be God's will. We are going to turn now to page 282. It's a joy now to call upon Linda Berlin and Ben Marins, both former presidents of our congregation, both wonderful leaders in our community, to have the honor of opening our doors. And once again, we are going to rise together now as a community as we turn to page 282 for the Elenu. Good job.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. We turn our thoughts to those who have lived and loved and who have passed from this earth, those who have passed away in recent days and those for whom we mark the period of Shiva. Particularly in our hearts we are thinking of Susan Rubin. To her name too we add those for whom we are marking the period of Shloshim, the 30-day mourning period. We think of Henya Fetterman, Marion Newman, Natalie Saltiel, Martin Yanoff, and Ben Steinberg. In addition to those names, too, we think of those who've passed into life eternal, for whom we mark their yahrzeit this evening. And though they have passed away in seasons gone by, we still feel their presence as we walk in their footsteps. We think of Fanny Aaron, Helen Berger, Chaim Buam, Robert Karp, Lucille Cohn, Alex Cooper, Herbert Cummins, Maureen Eichenbaum, Molly Fabric, Maurice R. Furstad, Florence S. Frank, Eugene G. Gilbert, Selwyn Glincher, Joseph Goldman, Vance Hammond, Sally Himes, Ned Jones, Albert Joseph, Irving Kahn, Virginia F. Kaczynski, Gary Katz, Susan Codner, Reuben Cosberg, Jack Landsberg, Bertha Liebman, Leo Lieberman, Herman Marks, Irene Mesnick, Laura Miller, Hannah Moser, James M. Pash, Bernice Pekarsky, Nathan Routman, Charles Sack, Annette Sheffrin, Dave Schlitz, Hattie Schlitz, Earl Scheiman, Harold Singer, Herman Spiegler, Lorraine Steinman, Joseph Tarlow, Ben Veely, Elaine S. Weber, Annie Weber, Margaret Weiss, Eleanor White, Claire Willis, Nathan Yanoff, Julia Young, Lillian Zaret, Oliver Zesblatt, and Edward Zucro. If there are names that should be added to this list or names that should be pronounced differently than I did, or if you're commemorating the yahrzeit of a loved one whose name was not called, please do call that name as I look in your direction. In addition to the names of our loved ones, we think of all those who died due to war and or terrorism, all those who died in defense of this nation and allied nations' ideals. We think of all those who've died due to this terrible virus that has stricken our nation and our globe, as well as the virus of racism and xenophobia. We also think of all those who perished due to this terrible earthquake that struck Turkey and Syria. And I know that there are opportunities to contribute to the relief fund there, and you can do that through JFNA, which is the Jewish Federations of North America. And we always remember those who perished during the Holocaust. Our grief and sympathies are mingled as we turn to words sanctified by memory, words glorified by hope. The Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, can be found on page 294. We stand together now as one community as we recite these sacred words. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah, B'alma divrach Yeruteh v'amlich malchuteh, B'chayichon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uv'izman kari v'yimru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam ulamei almaya. Yit barach v'ishtabach v'itpa'ar v'itramam v'itnaseh. V'itadar v'italev v'italal Shmei dekudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran bi'alma v'yimru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. As always in our tradition, we turn from sadness to joy. It's a joy to call upon Brent to share with us some announcements of great things that are happening in our congregation. I hope you have them with you, Brent, unlike me, so that you can share all these wonderful things. Shabbat Shalom, Brent.
Thank you, Rabbi. Yeah. At least you got yours printed. I have to go off my phone, so. But thank you, Rabbi, and thank you, Cantor, for such a meaningful service this evening. And Shabbat Shalom to all our congregants that are here in our sanctuary, as well as all the people that are watching at home tonight. You all bring a tremendous amount of warmth to these very chilly nights. Last night, some of our board members, as Rabbi had mentioned earlier, and our clergy, had the great pleasure of attending Micah's dinner event to celebrate Black History Month. It was a great it was great to sit among so many of our other faiths organizations in support of Micah's community mission. There are also a lot of really great things, upcoming events here at Congregation Shalom that I hope you all get a chance to partake in. Join us tomorrow night at 7 o'clock p.m. for our board game night for adults. Some games will be provided, but feel free to bring your favorite games from home to play with all of your Shalom friends. I'm told there will also be an opportunity for some axe throwing. Snacks will also be provided, so please RSVP for that. That sounds like a lot of fun. Also, get your skates out. On Sunday, our 4th through 6th graders will be traveling to Red Arrow Park for a fun afternoon activity of ice skating. There's also a Voices for Justice meeting this Sunday at 10 a.m. in the choir room, where Anita Johnson from Souls to the Polls will be our guest speaker. Then on Tuesday evenings, our adult education class on Jewish poetry continues for a few more sessions. Rabbi Pezlowski guides our congregation in leading prayers that have inspired creative poetry and the artists that have composed these pieces. Our Israel Education series also continues for a few more months on the first Wednesday of each month from 6:30 to 8 o'clock p.m. The class covers topics on Israel's history and discusses modern Israel as well. The Purim celebration is coming on Sunday, March 5th, and I'm really excited. The Purim spiel, which I will partake in, will start at 10:30 during religious school, and all are encouraged to attend. Obstacle course, a raffle, and also much more. Another movie night, family movie night, is then scheduled for Saturday, March 11th. Our feature movie will be Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Can't say I've seen that one yet. Then coming up on March 29th, congregation members ages 50 through 72 are invited by our membership committee to a chatcuttery? Chatcuttery? I knew I'd get it wrong. Anyhow, a think tank whose discussion will focus on how Congregation Shalom can best meet the needs of these congregants' age group. Food and wine will be provided. Please look for more details to come out in your emails on this program. Our 8th and 9th grade students will also be taking a field trip to our state capital, Madison, Wisconsin, coming up on March 17th and 18th. And lastly, we invite you to join us for our Saturday morning Torah study at 9 a.m. and Shabbat services at 10 a.m. with a community lunch served after the service. Our daily Minions services also occurs every weeknight here at 5:45 and is available on Zoom as well. Well, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, and I hope you all have a great weekend. Thank you.
Brent, did you say Puss in Boots, the last Kiddush? That's what I heard. What? The last wish. Okay, so it's not the last Kiddush. It certainly isn't the last Kiddush, as we will now turn to Kiddush, which we can find on...
It won't be the last Kiddush.
It won't be the last Kiddush, but it will be for this evening, we think. So let's turn to page 5 and rise together as we join together, as we sanctify over the wine.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh, zecher litziat mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Well, Cantor, we're going to turn to our closing hymn for the Shabbat. What is our closing hymn for Shabbat, the Shabbat, Cantor?
Let the heavens be glad and the earth rejoice.
Yismechu Hashamayim, page 346. Page 346.
Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam umelo. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam umelo. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz.
Shabbat Shalom to all of you here. Shabbat Shalom to all of you watching at home.
Yai,